Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Patty Brennan Show. Whether you have $20 or $20 million, this show is for those of you who want to protect, grow, and use your assets to live your very best lives. I'm really excited about today's podcast because we're going to be talking about using your assets to live a very good life. Joining me today is Allison Owen. Allison is the president and founder of Turk's Head Wines. It's a new enterprise that is just starting up. And I will tell all of you, this lady is a badass. I mean, this lady is something. She spent 20 years in corporate America on planes and trains and automobiles all over the country in corporate boardrooms, and then decided, you know what? I think I want to do this instead. Welcome to the show, Allison.
Thank you.
So tell me about that moment, if you could. I want to hear all about your business and, about the wines. By the way, here's the wines, of course. Don't worry, we're not drinking it today, but we will be drinking this stuff. But what was the catalyst? What gave you that courage to say, you know what, this is really comfortable. I'm doing great. You were a rock star nationally, right? In a very highly competitive industry, I think, right? Software?
Yeah, I was. I was actually a national sales leader for an organization that sold professional services into Fortune 500 organizations.
Oh, my goodness.
As you mentioned, I was on planes, trains, and automobiles, missing, kids' concerts and, all the things that come along with raising a family. And, I just got to a point where I kind of lost the fire in my belly. And I really didn't know why. And it took me, I would say, probably the best of 2 years to figure out, why I just had that pilot light where it used to be, an inferno. And I sat back one day and, my husband and I were talking, and we've been talking about getting into the wine industry for over 17 years. And I made a career change. Left my, national sales leader job, went to a startup where I really wanted to have a new challenge and help build something amazing. And it wasn't necessarily what I was looking for. So my husband literally looked at me one day and said, "Quit." And I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
We have, 2 kids in middle school, a child in high school, getting ready to go off to college." And he said, "You know what? I think it's time, if not now, when? It's time for you to go build this business we've been talking about for so long."
Wow, what a great wingman.
Yeah,
Amazing.
100%. Yeah.
Amazing. That's not an easy thing to do, especially
It's not.
especially maybe that would put more pressure on him. But this is so interesting to me how he just believed in you. Whatever you're going to do it. You'll be fine.
Yeah, no, having his support was obviously critical and gave me the confidence that I had the freedom to go do this. It really was a hard decision because you sit back and, ever since I graduated college, had been in corporate America working, towards W-2, working towards a title, working towards, climbing the corporate ladder. And to leave all that behind, took a lot of self-reflection, took a lot of, confidence. But at the end of the day, I look back on it now, and I left the life that I had to build the life that I wanted.
That is so profound. You left the life that you had, which was very comfortable. You were doing great reputation, great brand. Everybody knew you, to create the life that you wanted.
In an industry that I had no experience in.
Oh, by the way, right? Exclamation point.
Right.
Amazing, amazing. So how did you learn about the industry? What was that like, and what was it like starting up?
So I've always been the type of person that I've always wanted to seek to understand. I've always been extremely curious, always asking a lot of questions to understand, every angle of everything, whether it was in the industry I was in, learning about a customer or prospect's business, how they were approaching, the market, and I immersed myself in it. I mean, the first thing I did after we decided that I was going to take this leap is I enrolled in a virtual class at UC Davis, right? UC Davis, obviously one of, the highly acclaimed schools in the wine industry. And I enrolled in a virtual class in tasting room design and management. And learned and absorbed and worked very closely with the professor, told him what I was looking to do, gained his insights, and started talking to people in the industry.
Isn't it amazing? I didn't even know there was such a thing. I mean, it's just amazing how there's so many different ways to do this thing called life.
Right.
And you found the thing that you were interested in, curious about, and went to the experts. It happened to be at UC Davis,
Right.
which is phenomenal. So that is so interesting to me, which took some research in and of itself. Tell me more about a tasting room. How'd you get that idea, and is that what you've built here?
Yeah, so it's in the process, right? I'm obviously in the middle of my journey that started the beginning of 2022. Our actual tasting room will be opening next summer of 24. So we are in the middle of this journey. However, my husband and I, we have lived in Westchester for over 12 years, raising our family here, and obviously love the borough, love everything that it brings, the small businesses. There's, over 65 restaurants and bars. So there's always something to do, there's somewhere to go. But what we really felt as, wine people, right, and winos that love to go out and drink and enjoy wine and talk about wine, is there was this void, right? So it kind of goes back to the whole fill a need, find a need, fill a need.
You betcha.
And so when we decided to get into the industry, start our own wine label, start producing wines, we really wanted to bring the West Coast wine tasting experience to Westchester. We wanted it to be in our hometown. We worked with, obviously, commercial realtors to find the right spot. And based on the location, really came up with this vision of what could be. Beyond just doing a California tasting room, we're really going to be focused on wine education. We're building in a classroom, a VIP membership lounge, so we can get some of these winos that are sitting at home out and engaging with other winos and people that really enjoy talking and geeking out about wine, and giving them that social venue to do so.
So it's so interesting to me because, there is that community element to this. And I think that that's fascinating that you're solving many needs all with this one concept. I will tell you as a sidebar, we often have these client events and we'll have someone who is a wine expert. I am shocked at how much people love hearing about wine.
They really do. And it's, the world of wine is vast. There's always more to learn. Nobody knows everything. And, we really want to cater to people. I think there's a group of folks that want to understand wine, but don't really know how to get there, right? You don't really get a lot of guidance when you go into a wine store or education, right? You just look for the big labels. You look for a pretty label. You pick up a bottle. You buy it. You drink it. You either like it or you don't.
Right.
Our goal, again, is to get people that are interested in wine, wanting to get into wine, and then even catering, to your point, to folks that, have cellars and collect wine, and giving them a venue to get out of the house and meet other people and learn more and expand their palates.
That is so cool. So you're bringing the West Coast to the East Coast. How did that happen? How do you create your own wine label? What's involved? I mean, folks, I will tell you, this is how little I know about this industry. I said, Allison, what do? You go out and pick grapes and pick out the grapes that you want to put in your wine? She said, well, it's not exactly like that, Patty.
You don't just show up at Wegmans and purchase grapes and go for it. No, so we actually, we met our winemaker, again, seeking to understand, trying to, meet as many people in the industry as I could. I had heard of a gentleman, Kieran Robinson, and his wife, who were Chester County natives, who recently moved to Chester County, and he was a winemaker out in Napa and Sonoma for over 20 years.
How convenient.
How convenient, right? Right down the street. So, Josh and I, my husband, one night I said, hey, I think we need to go meet this guy, Kieran, pick his brain, tell him what we're planning on doing, and he can tell us if we're, crazy or not. Exactly. So we met, talked to him about our business plan, what we were looking to achieve, and he was on board. And so much on board, in fact, that we have actually hired Kieran as our winemaker. So he is bi-coastal and spends, 5 months out of his year living in Napa and 7 months here in Chester County. And again, between the two of us, we've really formed an amazing partnership and really bringing this whole West Coast wine experience to the East Coast.
And what's so cool about it that I didn't know, Allison, it's not just about the wine, it's about the experience.
100%. 100%.
And that's the differentiator.
Yes, absolutely. So, what we're really looking to deliver in the tasting room and what we've already started to deliver in our retail store, which is already open down on Church Street.
By the way, is it true that this weekend there was a line out the door already?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. I mean, it's
wild.
just all brand new.
It's been absolutely amazing. We opened the bottle shop at the end of October, and the amount of people that have come in that either live in the borough and are super excited because they don't need to get in their car to drive to go buy wine. People are excited about our story, and people are super excited about the tasting room coming and, having this new experience to be more. It's not going to be a true bar in the sense of, having 3 people deep. We really want to provide more of a lounge type experience for people where you can come, sit, have conversation, not be yelling and screaming, and learn about wines or just
Talk about whatever.
it and create memories. And that's what's beautiful to me about wine is that it's behind every bottle there's a story. But at the same time, when you open a bottle of wine and you pour it in 2 glasses and you're sitting with friends or your partner or your spouse or family, you're creating stories. And I can't tell you how many times I've been talking to people and they're like, I remember when I had that bottle. It was back in, February of this year. We were celebrating our anniversary, and it just brings back all these memories. So that's what I'm also so excited about is not just creating this experience, but creating a place where people can have memories and build memories and stories over a bottle of Turk's Head wines.
Okay, so that is another question that I have. Thank you for saying that. Turk's Head Wines. How did you come up with the name?
Yeah, so obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it was really important to us as, Westchester residents to build this tasting room in Westchester. And one of the things that was really important as well was making sure that we built a brand that people locally could really rally behind. So Turk's Head is actually what Westchester was named and known as prior to the name Westchester. So from 1762 to I think about 1790, it was known as Turk's Head.
So I'm going to make another confession here, everybody. I did not know that. I'm on a board called Turk's Head, and I did always wonder what that meant, and I did not realize that that was the name of Westchester. Full disclosure, I admit. That's fantastic. So Westchester was called Turk's Head.
It was.
And then what made them change the name?
It became the county seat, and the gentleman that actually, it was known as Turk's Head because there was a gentleman in 1762, Phineas Eachus, that commissioned to get a license to build a tavern. And he built a tavern called Turk's Head Tavern. So obviously it was just that, right? Mm-hmm. People would go, have drinks. And I believe, as the history books would say, is once it became the county seat, I think they said, we probably need to change the name and not have it be named after a tavern where people go and drink and probably get a little tipsy. So obviously we were west of the town of Chester. So that's essentially how the name came to be.
Wow, that is so interesting. And you are resurrecting it, right? Yeah. It may not be a tavern, but it's going to be the tasting room.
Exactly.
And you're resurrecting that history, that camaraderie that we all think about with the tavern, and some education, and it's going to appeal across the board as a community gathering place where you're going to have some really good wine to choose from, right?
Correct.
So it's all going to be this wine that's coming from Napa Valley.
Yes.
Is that right?
So we actually have, between our 2022 harvest and our 23 harvest, we have direct contracts with 14 different vineyards across 10 AVAs. We source directly from these vineyards. Some are literally people's backyards. Some are these 800-acre, huge vineyards that, have been producing exceptional fruit for years. We do produce all of our wine in a production facility in South Napa. However, the vineyards that we source from are all throughout Napa, Sonoma, and some of the surrounding counties. They come from 10 AVAs, which are American Viticulture Areas.
I was going to ask you what that stood for.
Yeah, so that's an American Viticulture Area. So within the wine world, you can source from different places. So that could be, Napa Valley, Sonoma Mountain, Moon Mountain, Alexander Valley. So as you're going to wine stores and looking at the labels, you'll see that, the more specific that is on that label as to where the wine is coming from, typically the higher quality it is, all the way down to the vineyard. So we will actually be producing some single vineyard designated bottles that we will be bottling this spring and bringing here late spring before the tasting room opens, where all of our Cabernet Sauvignon that is in a specific bottle is specifically from one vineyard.
I think it's a fascinating concept. Do you ever see yourself going overseas?
I don't think so.
Not necessary?
Right now everything is going to be 100% direct to consumer. So we are specifically making all of these wines to bring them back here to Westchester. We, as I mentioned, we source the fruit direct from the vineyards. We do not sign a contract to source fruit unless either myself or our winemaker has actually stepped foot into the vineyard. We own all the decisions from when the fruit is picked all the way through the decisions on the winemaking, what's going to go into the bottle, what's going to be blended together to go into a bottle. I specifically, picked out the glass, the corks, how the corks were going to be imprinted. Hired a company out in Napa to come up with our packaging and our logo and brand design. So everything is 100% owned by us. Every single decision is made by us and our team, and then will be brought here to Westchester once in bottle to be sold 100% out of our brick and mortar here in Westchester.
I am just thinking that must be a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
There's a lot to this, isn't there?
There's a lot.
And I would also imagine, and I hope I'm not reading your mind too much, but I would imagine that it's a fair amount of upfront capital requirement to get all this stuff even before you open the tasting room.
Yeah, absolutely. So our 2022 harvest was our first harvest. We are selling our rosé and our Semillon, which is a white varietal, out of the bottle shop. All of our reds are still hanging out in barrel. So the reds that are hanging out in barrel right now will be bottled in March, ready to drink in May. But if you think back, all of those reds were picked in September and October of 2022. So it does take a long time to make quality wine, about 18, plus months for the reds, 6 to 9 months for whites. So it is definitely upfront capital intensive because it takes so long to make the product. And in addition to that, coming up with the financial, projections and how much wine do we need to make,
right,
to be able to handle the foot traffic that we believe will be coming into the tasting room and the bottle shop to buy wines by the glass, to buy tasting flights, to buy wine, bottles and the wine club. And all of that was definitely a very interesting exercise to go through.
I'll bet it was. And with all that wonderful experience you had in starting a small business, right?
Well, yeah, but it's like anything. If you surround yourself with the right people, the right level of talent, the right subject matter experts, the rest falls into place.
And you know what's so interesting, and I don't know you that well, Allison, but it seems to me you have the humility to be able to say, I don't know everything, so can you help me out here? I trust your judgment. What am I missing here? Those are the questions, using that curiosity that you have, naturally, to really get to the answers, at least exercising your best judgment, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from the leadership skills that I developed in corporate America, right? So, building a team, dealing with, living through divestitures and acquisitions and a lot of change, right, especially through COVID in the corporate world as a national sales leader, and gave me those skills to realize that I don't know everything. And if I hire the right people to be on my team and I consult with the right folks across finance and HR and legal and operations to pull together a strategy and do it as a team, we will be successful.
100%, and you'll adjust along the way. You've got these projections, you've got these estimates of foot traffic and all of that, and either it sounds like it's going to be more than you might have expected, right? A lot of people are very interested in Turk's Head wine, very interested. I mean, it's becoming viral already. So those projections may have been underestimated. Most small businesses, you probably in your research know this, but most people overestimate how quickly things are going to ramp up. They underestimate the amount of capital that is required. They overestimate how quickly they'll hit the ground running. And so going into it, you were more conservative, and I think that sounds like you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I have actually been blown away as to the reception that we have already received in the community, not just from customers walking in the door to the bottle shop, but other small business owners that are interested in collaborating. A lot of folks in the business community, to your point, that have prospects and customers and are looking to have a really cool experience other than just a happy hour event to host people at, has been incredible.
That's a great idea. This could be a really big deal in terms of different things and different avenues that you've already thought about.
Yeah, there's so many things that I have thought about. And I think what has really also been key is, although there's a million different things that I want to execute on, I'm like, oh, we could do this or we could do that, or how cool would this be? I've had to make sure that from an execution perspective, that I take that wish list of these are all the things I want to do over time and dwindle it down to say, okay, these are the 5 things that we're going to execute on for day one, and we're going to do it well.
Wonderful. It's so interesting because what makes you unique as the founder is, and what most people really don't have, is your vision, right? Your ideas. You also have the wisdom not to just throw everything up against the wall and see most of them fail. The importance of that focus and get those wins, get those early wins is really impressive. Really, really impressive. And I'm so impressed with you. You said something that's key. What I think is key, and it is key, right? That's why it's called Key Financial, right? So, and I can't help but wonder what this is going to look like in 5 years. You'll focus, you'll do your thing, and it is what it is. You'll adapt, you'll adjust, and I'm so grateful, and I'm excited to have Turk's Head Wines right here in the borough for all of us here locally. Probably won't be a long time before it becomes national. And for whatever it's worth, guys, you heard it here first. So thank you so much, Allison Owen, for joining me today. Thanks to all of you for joining me. This was so much fun. I loved having you on the show. So for those of you who are interested, Allison, where is the store? Where's the retail store? What's the address?
So we're located at 120 North Church Street. So It's the block in between Gay Street and Chestnut.
Okay, so that's fantastic. I know exactly where you are. I think there's a pizza place and something close by. So go to Turk's Head Wines. They're opening their tasting room in the summer. In the meantime, you can pick up a bottle or two. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Patty Brennan. This is Key Financial Wealth Management with wisdom and care.